CitizenCon 2024 is right around the corner. Now I know many of you have been holding your breath, crossing your fingers, or maybe even pulling out the old salt shaker for a grain or two of skepticism. Because let's be real for a second. If you've been following Star Citizen for a while, you know that anticipation and delays go together like quantum travel and a 30K disconnect. We're excited, but cautiously so. And before we get too carried away, remember, everything I'm about to discuss is pure speculation. None of this is set in stone. So sit back, relax, and let's talk about what could, might, and hopefully will happen at CitizenCon 2024. So here's what I'm expecting to see at CitizenCon this October. This year the event feels particularly charged. With all the buzz around Pyro, 4.0, and server meshing, there's a lot to look forward to. But if there's one thing that we've learned over the years, it's that we have to set realistic expectations. I mean, CIG have been teasing these features for what feels like forever, but the fact is, we're still waiting, and it is what it is. Progress takes time, but what we shouldn't be seeing at CitizenCon, and I'll repeat this because it's important, is any major deep dive into 4.0 or Pyro. Now I know, we all want to see it, but if they show anything, it'll likely just be a release trailer, assuming they're close enough to dropping 4.0 around the event. Anything beyond that would just be a bit too much, and honestly we don't need more hype around a feature that's already been in the spotlight for so long. The venue itself this year is themed around a Bengal carrier, which gives us a pretty clear signal. Squadron 42 is going to be a huge focus, especially on day 2. So if you've been holding out hope for some new Star Citizen gameplay reveals, you're probably looking at day 1 for the bulk of that. But here's the tricky part. CitizenCon has always had this pattern of building up massive expectations, and sometimes, well, they don't always hit the mark. I don't mean to be a downer, but we've been here before. Remember back in the day when we were all waiting for them to really take off with development after CitizenCon in 2016, and add even more to the game over the next 2 years. Well, look at how well that aged. We've all learned to temper our expectations, so while I'm excited to see what they'll unveil, I'm keeping my expectations in check. Sort of. For example, 4.0 should have been out by now, but we know CIG likes to make sure things are just right before they launch anything. And given the massive scope of 4.0 with server meshing and everything that comes with it, it's not hard to understand why it's taking a while. But that also means they probably won't focus on it much during CitizenCon, other than maybe, as I said before, a teaser or release trailer. This is especially true considering that they planned out the event factoring in 4.0's release that they wanted to have out during summer. And let's face it, they don't need to pile more onto that hype train. The real challenge here is balancing what's exciting for the community without showing off too much of what we already know is coming, but haven't seen yet. Now let's get into what will likely be shown. One of the biggest reveals we could expect is base building. The team has been working on it for a while, and it's one of the most highly anticipated features by the community. Building your own base or homestead is a game changer, especially in the context of a living universe like Star Citizen's. The appeal is obvious. Who doesn't want to carve out a little corner of the verse for themselves? Now, if you're enjoying this breakdown and want to stay updated on Star Citizen's developments, don't forget to subscribe. I'll keep bringing you the latest insights and updates on everything happening in the verse. But let's get back to base building. What can you expect when it comes to base building features? Well, beyond the obvious setting up your storage and defenses, you'll have access to more advanced structures like mining rigs, freight elevators, and even hangars to store your ships. The freight elevators will obviously allow you to move your cargo efficiently between the surface and your ships, making your base a hub for industry, resource gathering, and much more. Power will be another crucial element. Bases will need to be self-sufficient, and that's where structures like fusion reactors, solar panels, and geothermal power plants come into play. Whether you're harnessing solar power or tapping into geothermal energy, managing these power sources will be key to keeping everything running smoothly. And let's not forget about those medical facilities that will be available to handle those inevitable emergencies. The hangars are particularly important. These will be your landing spots where you can safely store your ships. Whether you're landing a small fighter or something larger, your hangar will provide secure storage and make sure your fleet is ready for action whenever you need it. Managing a fleet with your own base will add a whole new level of strategy, especially when you're operating from a dangerous system like Pyro or any other system for that matter. And the beauty of all of this, it's not just about creating a base for the sake of it. These bases will be practical, fully functioning hubs for your gameplay, allowing you to mine, craft, and even refine materials on site. The sense of ownership and control will really set base building apart from other features, making it a vital part of the Star Citizen experience. Now, there will undoubtedly be a lot more structures with base building, but these are just some of the main pieces of the larger picture. Base building ties into another major feature that might be revealed, which is crafting. Now, this will likely be at tier 0, so we're probably talking about basic gameplay mechanics at first. Think gathering resources, finding blueprints, and crafting simple items. But they might also tease some of the more advanced aspects like quality of items based on resources and blueprints. We've seen other games do this. Rare materials make better weapons or armor, for instance, and I expect something similar here. The ability to craft powerful and unique items could add a whole new layer to the gameplay loop, making exploration and resource gathering far more meaningful. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a workbench system where players can combine resources to create tools, weapons, or ship parts. And maybe, just maybe, we'll get a look at how blueprints are acquired. Whether through exploration, looting, or completing certain missions, the hunt for the rarest blueprints could become a big part of the end game. Now, on the ship front, there are a few exciting possibilities. There have been a few hints lately of a new Crusader starter ship called the Intrepid, which makes a lot of sense since Crusader currently lacks a true starter option. But what I'm really interested in is the Galaxy. Now that work on the Polaris and the Zeus is complete, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a closer look at the Galaxy. Modular ships are finally a reality, at least with the Retaliator. So I think that we'll see the Galaxy with its base module and maybe even another module showcased. If there's time, we might also see the Legionnaire nearing completion. Now, I doubt that it will be released at CitizenCon, but it could make an appearance during IAE or in a future patch. The Legionnaire is tied closely to hacking gameplay, and it's safe to say that once hacking becomes more fully fleshed out, the Legionnaire will follow. Now, another exciting reveal could be Planetech V5. This new iteration of their planetary tech promises to bring some big enhancements, especially in terms of biome diversity and environmental detail. Dense jungles, for instance, have been teased for a while now, and with Planetech V5, we might finally see them in action. The implications are huge. Exploration gameplay will feel more immersive, and planets will have more character. What's really intriguing, though, is the possibility that they will show off the use of AI algorithms to speed up the creation of their planets and systems. This tech could be a game changer for CIG, especially considering their long-term goal of having 100 systems in the game. Let's be honest, without this kind of tech, getting anywhere near that goal would be nearly impossible. While we're talking tech, I also think that we'll get a closer look at the global illumination and ray tracing features. These visual upgrades are going to make a big difference in how the game looks and feels. Lighting in particular has sometimes been a challenge in Star Citizen. Planets and moons can often feel too dark, even when there should be plenty of ambient light. With global illumination, we could see much more believable environments. And for those of you waiting to see a new system, I think we might finally get a look at Nyx. It's been in development for years, and with the new server meshing tech, it's the perfect time to introduce it. I can see them showcasing a jump point from Pyro to Nyx, giving us a first look at updated jump points. Nyx is an old fan favorite, and seeing Levski again after so many years will be a nostalgic moment for many of us. Here's where things get really interesting. Let's talk about Terra for a moment. Now, CIG hasn't been actively developing Terra for 10 years straight, but in 2014 and 2016, they showcased a lot of progress being made on Terra's landing zones, and it looked like things were moving forward. But after that, there hasn't been much news. It's safe to assume that it's been quietly worked on in the background, but it hasn't been a primary focus for quite some time. If they're ready to showcase Terra, even just a portion of it, it would be a huge moment for CitizenCon 2024. Terra represents a peaceful, utopian system, which would be a stark contrast to Pyro's lawless and dangerous environment. Seeing that difference in gameplay and tone would be fascinating. Terra would provide players with a more regulated, safer environment, and its landing zones could offer a stark visual and experiential contrast to the gritty, chaotic, and more corporate places that we've grown used to. Now, this may be a prediction that's more so out of left field, but it would be really nice to see. But perhaps the most significant reveal on day one will be the road to 1.0. I'm expecting them to lay out a comprehensive plan for what needs to be done to bring the game to a full release. We'll likely see a list of key features, including the long-awaited mechanics like bounty hunting v2, exploration gameplay, and ship refining. They might even touch on the next evolution of medical gameplay, or even what mining could look like in larger ships like the Arastra and Orion. I've always envisioned mining in Star Citizen as this grand collaborative effort. Imagine a crew of players working together on an Orion, with the beam operators focusing on massive asteroids, tractor beams pulling in valuable resources, a refinery operator managing the processing, and a drill operator boring deeper into the rock. All of this while the pilot makes minute adjustments to avoid collisions or disasters. It would be an experience like no other. So to wrap it all up, here's what I think that we'll see at CitizenCon 2024. Base building, crafting, some exciting new ships, Nyx, maybe even Terra, and a big focus on the road to 1.0. Day 1 will be packed with reveals, and Day 2? Well, that's Squadron 42's time to shine. We'll probably see a demo of an early mission and, fingers crossed, a release date. Whether they drop it during the event, aim for the holiday season, or push it to Q1 2025, we'll finally get some clarity. And once Squadron 42 is out the door, the focus will shift back to Star Citizen's development, ramping up toward the elusive 1.0 release. But what about you? What are your expectations for CitizenCon this year? Do you think we'll finally see some of these long-awaited features? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you're hoping for and what you think will actually be revealed. And if you've been enjoying the content and want to take it a step further, consider joining the channel as a member, where you'll get access to exclusive videos, early content, and private Discord channels where we discuss all things Star Citizen. Plus, you'll be directly supporting the content creation and helping grow the community. If that sounds good, click the join button and become part of the crew. And if you want to see more on the future of Star Citizen and how I think CIG can make rearming, refueling, and repairing amazing, you'll want to check out the next video. Fly safe, pilots, and we'll see you in the verse. Havoc out.